It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Oh, boy. Okay, well, that's up. So, everybody, welcome to the show. I hear that it's some sort of holiday that's going on here. Something to do with the 20th and perhaps cannabis. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. No, I'm just kidding. It's quite a day, actually. We got a big news day. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stories. And we also have a really important verdict that's about to happen as well. That's right. It's time to get it's almost time to get the red alert going here, because regarding, like, depending on how this goes, this could be pretty good, or this could go very bad. And yes, I am talking about the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial for the death of George Floyd. That is about to be handed down. Look, let me just say this, and not just handed down, but actually just announced. It took 24 hours, less than 24 hours, for the jury to deliberate and to come up with a verdict. So that is either really encouraging. To me, that seems encouraging, but I've been known to be a little bit too much of an optimist at times. And so, to me, though, again, I think that's very positive. We're going to have to see, though, what charges he will be found guilty. Remember, he's facing 3 different charges, and so we're gonna have to see how this turns out. When I know, I will report it. I will let you know. All right, so it is coming shortly. Until then, what we have here is we're going to talk about a little bit of karma that has come back for Ted Nugent. We get the MyPillow guy getting trolled on his Frankathon or Frankenstein, something like that. We got, of course, Maxine waters. I'm going to wade into those waters, where there's seems to be a lot of differing opinions on this. Interesting stuff. We got Tucker Carlson, that's related. We got Florida going after protesters, shocker. And then, we got a story from Michigan, actually a place that I used to live. It turns out there was a child that had her hair cut forcibly by a teacher, and a father's trying to find out why. So, okay. So there's that stuff. And yes, you're not going to be surprised that little girl is biracial. And so there you go. Fun times. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Again, we got a lot to get to. Before we do, of course, please like, share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out greatly. Super chats, bits, subs, gifted subs, all that wonderful stuff. Helps us greatly. As well as going to our patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. And that, again, helps us out. All right. With that, let's dive in. Good old Ted. All right. So I'm feeling a bit of schadenfreude, shall we say, at the news that rocker Ted Nugent has come down with the coronavirus. Not shocking. Not shocking to me or anybody who's been paying attention. It's not a surprise because he's been a vocal critic of wearing masks, socially distancing, lockdowns here in Michigan. In fact, he did a Facebook Live. He's been going on the Facebooks, and he has been saying things like this.
Dirty, lying, scam, smoke and mirrors, COVID-19 freaks. You know, I guess I would ask you, because I'm addicted to truth, logic, and common sense, and my common sense meter would demand the answer to, why weren't we shut down for COVID 1 through 18? There was a COVID 1 and there was a COVID 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. COVID 1 through 18 didn't shut anything down, but whoa, COVID 19, even though it's 99.8% survivable, why didn't we shut down for the AIDS epidemic or the flu or the Spanish flu or the bird flu or the West Nile flu or influenza every year? They claim 500,000 people have died from COVID-19. Bull.
All right, so that's Ted. That happened last week. And look, I broke down all the time, basically everything that he was wrong about in that video in a separate video. But now, just recently, in fact, as recently as Monday, Ted Nugent, they had to come out and admit this to his followers. Take a look.
I was tested positive today. I got the Chinese. Boy, I got a stuffed up head. Body aches. My God, what a pain in the ass. I literally can hardly crawl out of bed the last few days. But I did. I crawled. I don't look like I've been crawling, do I? So I was officially tested positive for COVID-19 today.
Huh. It's almost as if COVID-19 is not a joke. Weird. And let's be honest. Most people who do get it, yes, they end up feeling terrible, like Mr. Ted, but they do eventually recover. Not everybody is, of course, lucky like Ted. In fact, many people, after feeling, yes, a lot of people do end up feeling like Ted. They feel like garbage for a few days. They end up going through some pretty nasty symptoms, but they get through it in the end, right? And they eventually will go back to normal. But then again, not that many people are as lucky as Ted. Because they do suffer permanent lung damage, organ damage, neurological damage, and others end up facing some very serious hospital stays, ventilators, and many even die. For example, the 500,000 people, over 500,000 people that did die as a result of COVID-19. Yes, that is what they died from, Ted. Now, you might think, all right, he got COVID-19. It sucked. And he's starting to feel better now. That you would think that maybe that might humble him a bit. And that he might be like, oh, well, it turns out this thing was kind of serious. And maybe I was wrong about this. Well, as you're going to see, no.
So I said, Doc, all right, you want me to get tested? I haven't been tested, haven't taken the vaccine, so nobody knows what's in it. Actually, some people do know what's in it. And if you can't even honestly answer our questions of exactly what's in it and why are you testing it on human beings and forcing it upon people in such a short period of time, instead of answering those questions, I said to the doctor, hey, Doc, if I test positive, what will you do different if I test negative? And the doctor went, nothing. But it's good to know.
So, yeah, we have anti-vax talking points. Now, another thing that's interesting is that he seems to misunderstand the whole point of getting tested. And that's not surprising given who we're talking about here. All right. The whole point of knowing if you have COVID-19 and going to get your test and testing positive in his case is not so that the doctor can do stuff for you. Unless, of course, you're Donald Trump, unless you have some serious conditions to which they can treat it with certain medications. No, really, in the case of Ted Nugent, who was not sick enough to be hospitalized, is that, well, we're going to tell you they have COVID-19 so that you can take preventative measures to protect other people from getting COVID-19 from you. For example, self-quarantine or letting people that you've been in contact with know that, hey, look, I tested positive for COVID-19, so you yourself should either get tested or self-quarantine just in case so that you don't give it to other people. That's the whole point. But of course, Nugent is a typical selfish right-winger, doesn't give a damn about other people. It's all about me, 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 me. That's what it is. The thought never really crossed this tiny little addled mind. But to the next point, let's talk about the vaccines, right? So you heard the anti-vax. Oh, they don't know. They don't let us know what's in it. They're not telling us what's in it, and they're forcing it on us. No. It actually took me about all of 5 seconds to find what's in the vaccine. So now, personally, I took the Pfizer vaccine. I'm not dead. I don't have 5G implants sprouting up all over my face or anything like that, and so I'm actually fine. No complications, nothing. So I'm going to tell you what is in the Pfizer vaccine that I had taken, okay? So now, the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is made from the following ingredients. mRNA, also known as messenger RNA, and that is the active ingredient in the vaccine. The mRNA molecules contain the genetic material that provides instructions for our body on how to make a viral protein that triggers the body's immune response. The immune response is what causes our bodies, of course, to make antibodies needed to protect us from getting infected or exposed to coronavirus. And generally, they do a pretty good job. Now, there are rumors spread by stupid people that mRNA vaccines will somehow alter our DNA and change us into something else, and we become lizard people, or I don't know. And they say that because the RNA molecule can convert information stored in DNA into proteins. Now, that is simply not true. In reality, it is critical to note that the mRNA vaccines never enter the nucleus of the cell or mess with your DNA at all. In fact, once the viral protein is made on the surface of the cell, the mRNA is broken down and the body gets rid of it. We get rid of junk DNA all the time, or junk RNA in this case. And so it literally does not change our DNA at all. So I'm sorry, no lizard people, which kind of a bummer. I wouldn't mind being a lizard person, actually. It'd be interesting. Anyway, that's the main thing. mRNA. All right, that's the main the only active ingredient in these vaccines. So there are other stuff in them. Well, the other thing that's in them is basically they're known as lipids, right? Essentially fats. Now, their main role is to protect the mRNA and provide somewhat a greasy exterior that helps the mRNA slide into the cells and allow the cells, which are basically factories, to produce the protein that then your immune system says, hey, what is this? What is this crap that you're putting out? Well, now we got to get rid of it. But in doing so, it actually learns how to fight things that have that protein attached to it, which of course is the virus. So yeah, lipids, making it nice and slippery, nice and greasy, so that, kind of like Ted's hair. Those lipids actually have some scary science names, but are essentially nothing more than greasy fats. Fantastic. Now, the vaccine also, at least in Pfizer's case, and every vaccine has some different things, right? Now, part of the Pfizer vaccine also includes salts. Now, salts they put in there for, I guess, to help balance the acidity in the body. Like, for example, sodium chloride, which is literal table salt. All right, well, there you go. Now, it also includes other different types of salts for that same reason. Now, there's also sugar that's inside of it, basic table sugar, which then helps the molecules maintain shape during freezing, which, of course, is when, the Pfizer vaccine has to be stored in very cold temperatures. And that's basically it. You got your assorted fats, sugars, salts, and your mRNA. Basically it. So again, I took the vaccine. I'm totally fine. So millions of people, half the population in the United States is fully vaccinated. So that shows that it's not being tested on people. That was what clinical trials were for. And it was successful in the clinical trials. And so as a result, it's safe, it's effective, it confers up to 90% immunity from the known strains of this virus. Again, I'm just talking about the Pfizer vaccine that I had. And while there are complications that have been reported before, adverse reactions from some people, a very small handful of people compared to the millions and millions, infinitesimal, it's an infinitesimally small amount of people that have had an adverse reaction, same as basically any other vaccine out there. And so the fact that it's such a small amount of people that are not able to take this vaccine is more of a reason that everyone who can take the vaccine should take the vaccine. It's to protect those people who can't. Again, these thoughts never cross the mind of a far-right conspiracy theorist because all they care about is me, how special I am, and how I know more than you, even though what I know is complete and utter junk. That's it. But we really should get the vaccine in order to protect the people who are not able to get the vaccine because they are more prone to these adverse reactions. That's it. And let's also be clear. Nobody's forcing anybody to get the vaccine. It's all voluntary. Now, the only bad thing here is that it relies on selfish a-holes like Ted Nugent to look beyond themselves for just 1 second in order to save other people's lives. That's a problem. Okay? And I don't know how to reach those people other than with facts. Because you cannot force people to get vaccinated. I'm against forced vaccinations. But if you know somebody who is hesitant, please, show them the video, show them the information, get them all the facts, tell them what's in the vaccine, that it's no more harmful than a burger from McDonald's, and that I hope you can get through to them. Because the only way that we're going to beat this virus and get back to some semblance of normal and save lives in the process is to encourage people to go and get this vaccine. All right. Moving on. Let's go to MyPillow. The MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, is not having a good week. In fact, he's having a pretty bad week. Not only is he being sued by Dominion Voting Systems for $1.6 billion, he has also launched a doomed-to-fail countersuit, which is hilarious. But his brand new social media website, frankspeech.com, which he promised was going to be the greatest place. It's going to be the best place to gather, where you will not be censored, who, by the way, is ironically censoring swear words. That's if it could even get online, which they've been having a lot of problems getting that site to work. In fact, Lindell's launch led to a 502 error page, followed by a 500 internal server error message, which he then blamed on a, quote, massive attack. I hate to break it to you, Mike, but you are not that important. You are not important enough for a massive attack. Mike Lindell is a clown. He is a content farm. He is a piece of low-hanging fruit for us lefty content creators to dunk on. That's it. Which is even funnier when you realize that he actually believes that he's in the middle of this grand fight for the soul of the Republic, when in reality, he's just getting clowned on for the lulz. Seriously. And that's exactly what happened during his incredibly scuffed live stream, where even his call screeners were so easily duped. Watch.
I think we got breaking news here with a guest.
Hello?
Hello, yes, I have Mr. Trump on standby. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir. Hello, everyone.
We have the president here, our real president, everyone. Hello, Mr. President.
MacronShow.com, bitches.
Okay.
All right.
I
Sorry,
guess that
folks.
wasn't. I guess that was. You see what they're doing? They're attacking us. They're attacking us, and this is what. I mean, it even came up. There he was hacking into our phones.
Oh, that's too good. Oh, that's so good. We have our president here, the real president. Oh, it wasn't our president. Oh, I love it. Oh man, you see what they're doing? They're hacking our phones. They're hacking our phones. Everything about this is absolutely fantastic. From the fact that he has taken a call from a cell phone, which again is that like I thought lefties had like bad audio, but that was really really terrible. And I have had some bad audio problems on the show. Let me tell you what. That is scuffed leftist audio. What is a right winger with who's worth over $300 million going to be able to, you know, why is somebody like that having worse sound than a show like mine? Definitely not a professional operation there. And him taking a call on a cell phone from what they call the real president, and their call screeners being absolutely duped into this is hilarious. And then he jumps right to the fear mongering routine. Oh my God, they're hacking our phones. It's an attack from them. No, that's not what happened. Hacking is not when somebody fake prank calls you on an open number. And besides, who are they, Mike? Who are they? Who are you talking about? No, Mike Lindell makes it incredibly easy to prank him. And his reactions are nonstop. It's just a nonstop collection of hilarious memes and content that people like me can farm to make fun of you. And that's really it. Not because we hate you or that you're right. It's just because Mike Lindell is just a clown. It is what it is, Mike. It is what it is. Bad. Okay. Oh, fun times. We've got more. All right, so let's get in a little bit more serious here. So there's a lot of controversy about the next story about Maxine Waters, and I'm gonna wade into this. We'll see what happens. Republicans are not happy with Maxine Waters after she had made what some consider to be some very controversial statements. In fact, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has announced that he would seek to censure Maxine Waters for what she said were, quote, dangerous comments inciting protesters to get more confrontational. In fact, she said this weekend in Minnesota, Maxine Waters broke the law by violating curfew and then incited violence, McCarthy said in a statement to Breitbart News. In fact, he said, an increased unrest has already led to violence against law enforcement, and her comments intentionally poured fuel on the fire. We've heard this type of violent rhetoric from Waters before, and the United States Congress was clearly and without reservation reprimand this behavior before more people get hurt. But a Speaker Pelosi is ignoring Waters' behavior. That's why I'm introducing a resolution to censure Representative Waters for these dangerous comments, and I hope for all my colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, will stand up for peace on America's streets. Whew. Okay. Let me just say this. No justice, no peace. All right? No justice, no peace. People should be out there. People should be out protesting. And while I don't agree with violence, I don't advocate for violence, it should be noted that the vast majority of protests in the wake of the George Floyd killing were peaceful, as opposed to what the police have been doing in the meantime with killing many more black men. And so here's the thing. So now what she's saying is so incredibly controversial, even among the left. Yeah, you've got a lot of disagreement on whether or not she should have come out and said these things. And so first I'm going to show you the video, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on it. Take a look.
We're looking for a guilty verdict, and we're looking to see if all the talk that took place and has been taking place after they saw what happened to George Floyd, if nothing does not happen, then we know that we've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that says guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No. This is guilty. Murder. I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree.
So what happens if we do not get what you just told? What should protesters on the street do?
I didn't hear you.
What happens?
What should protesters do?
Well, we've got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active, we've got to get more confrontational, we've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
All right, so they got to know that we mean business. We got to be confrontational. I should not find anything wrong with that. Okay, so in context, what does confrontational mean? What could it mean? Violence? Yeah, it's possible. Words are tricky like that. It turns out they can have multiple meanings depending on how you use them, depending on the context. In this context, I do believe that she meant confronting the injustice through protest, through more protest. Remember, this is in response to a black man being killed by a police officer. Okay, and not long after this, by the way, there were more. There was another officer that had killed a black man, Daunte Wright. And so it's not just, by the way, black men being brutalized by the police. It's also elderly white women with dementia or even children. And so what she's talking about in her context, I believe, is more protests, bigger protests, active protests, larger crowds, political action, holding people accountable. That's what I believe it is. And so now you might be wondering, well, how can I go and defend Maxine Waters when it seems like this could be interpreted as a call for violence, but then go after Donald Trump for incitement? Am I some sort of hypocrite? No, let me explain this. This is pretty simple. It's the context. It really depends on who you're speaking to. Who is Maxine Waters talking to? Who was Donald Trump talking to? And how could that be incitement? Well, they are talking to two different audiences. Donald Trump and the right-wing audience are more prone to violence. It's simple. I can prove that with facts. Okay? You can see that with the numbers. Far-right violence in this country is the most prevalent. The FBI has labeled the far-right the most dangerous and violent group in this country. You have groups like the Oath Keepers, which took part in the January 6th Capitol riot, which ended in the deaths of 5 people. You have the Proud Boys. You have the Sovereign Citizens, who have killed police all over this country. You have others. A lot of these groups that are on the far right are more than happy to employ violence. The far right has also stockpiled lots of weapons, and the rhetoric for them is something that you can't ignore as well. A lot of it talks about how they can't wait to start a race war, or secede from the country, or use violence against left-wing politicians. And so that's the right wing. That's who Trump was talking to. That's who these conservatives are talking to. Now, that's the audience. But Maxine Waters' audience, that's different, because these are people who live in neighborhoods that are right now being exploited and assaulted by police officers, that are still feeling the effects of Jim Crow, redlining, institutional racism. The only thing they want is for that to be gone and to stop being murdered in the streets by police officers. They also want to not be denied opportunities because of the color of their skin. These are not the same. There's no equivalence here. Okay? BLM did not invade the Capitol. Antifa did not invade the Capitol, even though that's what a lot of right-wingers are saying now. There's no evidence of Antifa. They weren't there. They weren't there waving Trump flags and saying, hang Mike Pence. Hang Mike Pence, sorry. And they didn't do that. No, it was Donald Trump's audience. That's the difference here. That's why the conflation by McCarthy is 100% garbage. What they want to do in going after Maxine Waters, okay, is they want to silence the uppity black woman, all right? Because they think that the system is fine the way it is, that it's working as intended, and that anyone who raises the issues needs to be censured, needs to be silenced, and that's it. And that's it. And it's ironic because the right wing loves to talk about free speech, but wants to shut up Maxine Waters and actually also wants to criminalize protest. And so it's complete and total hypocrisy from what is now the party of insurrection. All right. I've got another Maxine Waters related story. This time Tucker Carlson is going to weigh in. Let me do that real quick. Then we're going to come back and see if there is a verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. So let's do it. Dive in. Now, if you were a member of Tucker Carlson's audience, well, I'm sorry. Know this. He wants you afraid. He wants you afraid of Maxine Waters, of BLM, of Antifa, of anybody who's actually fighting for justice for Black Americans. And in his most mask-off moment yet, he's going to explain why. Take a look.
Waters has never believed in Western justice. For decades, she supported the totalitarian government of Cuba, which replaced jury trials with summary mass executions, murdering entire groups of people. And that was fine with Maxine Waters. She's never had a problem with killing political enemies. Waters is now among the most powerful Democrats in Congress. Over the weekend, she traveled to Minneapolis to make certain the mob outside the Chauvin trial understood its marching orders. Do what we say or we'll kill you. That's the message. Maxine Waters doesn't have much use for those Anglo-Saxon civic traditions like jury trials. Her demand was very clear. Convict Officer Derek Chauvin of first-degree murder or we will burn it down.
All right, so there it is. Now, did she, though? Did she? This is some serious absurdity coming from Tucker Carlson. He's literally accusing this woman of calling for the deaths of her political enemies. As I explained in another segment, these two sides, just false equivalence is absolutely ridiculous, as they were talking to two completely different audiences, one which is much more willing to be incited towards violence than the other. Now, this is, I mean, it's a pretty insane leap of logic here. Not even Superman could make that leap. You know, tall buildings in a single bound, but can't make that leap that Tucker Carlson just did. But it doesn't matter because Tucker Carlson's audience slurps it right up. Remember, they're mostly old white people who are pretty scared, pretty fearful of the colors. All right. So, of course, it's incredibly easy to scare them. All they have to do is say Antifa or BLM and think that they're some sort of hate group. So, look, there's a ton of protests going on. You got the George Floyd trial, the verdict that's going to be handed down today. And there's a lot of really, really raw feelings, okay, that are happening. The question, of course, is George Floyd going to get some sort of, I can't really call it justice, but will Derek Chauvin be held accountable for the death of George Floyd? And that is the question. And if that does not happen, if George Floyd can't get, justice, I guess, or if Derek Chauvin can't be held accountable for his actions, then will any police officer? Is there any point at all to trust the system? And so that's the question that people out there are going to be asking themselves as they await the hand down of the verdict. And so I get it. Emotions are running hot. But despite that, of course, most of the protests have been peaceful. Yes, there were riots. Of course. Was there looting? Yeah, there was some. Is anyone actually saying that that's a good thing? No, of course not. But here's the thing. Maxine Waters wants a murder conviction. That's totally fine. That's her opinion. I want one too. And a lot of people, guess what? We get to share our opinions. That opinion is not going to sway a jury. I kind of get tired of the whole like, oh, you're influencing the jury. The jury is not filled with 5-year-olds. Okay, they've seen the evidence. It's up to them to make a decision. It's not an easy decision, but I don't think that Maxine Waters did anything wrong by expressing her opinion. Again, she's a congresswoman She's just a human being. And when you look at what she said, she was not advocating for violence. And again, it's because of the audience that she was speaking to is not going to go out and storm the Minnesota State House. Okay, what she's speaking about is justice, speaking about protests. And yeah, protests are literally confrontational. And so what Tucker Carlson is doing is, again, twisting her words and making her out to be evil. And of course, using the Anglo-Saxon thing, that's a dog whistle of the far right, who does engage in violence. And they have a pretty large body count, as opposed to the left, which is engaged at worst, tossing cans of soup and tear gas back at cops, and then setting an Arby's on fire. Which actually, by the way, had a stronger reaction than, by these right-wing cable pundits than the deaths of actual human beings, which is, of course, the cause of these protests, riots, and things like that in the first place. It's almost as if they care more about property than people. It's super weird. Super weird. But this has been, to me, an incredibly mask-off moment for Tucker Carlson. He's, of course, showing his white nationalism and indifference for the lives of black people more than ever now on his show. It really is super mask-off. Maxine Waters may be far from what we consider to be a progressive, but when it comes to Tucker Carlson, way more progressive than he is by miles, leaps and bounds. Do not go on this guy's show. Do not give him airtime, unless, of course, you are to challenge him, because he's going to use you to really push his white nationalism. There will be no red-brown alliance. Hell no. Because this is who Tucker Carlson really is. All right. That's it. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Hopefully we'll have the verdict. If not, of course, we'll talk about how Florida is coming after free speech. And then we've got another story as well. So stay right here. Around the Nation. We'll be right back.
Background of the video. And the defense really, I think, throughout the case tried to say it's more complicated than the prosecution is trying to lead you to believe. In fact, we have to look at, and of course, this is the defense's job. They're trying to create reasonable doubt in the mind of at least one juror. They said we have to look at pre-existing conditions that George Floyd has. We have to look at prior drug use. And we have to look at, there was an attempt to kind of convince the jurors that the bystanders were creating a kind of chaotic scene. And so they were using that video for other purposes. But in so many ways, I think when you look back at the evidence that the jurors saw, it just feels like an inescapable conclusion that that video was the most powerful piece of evidence, more than the police officers who came and broke that, thin blue wall.
It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
Masturbate all day long.
Who's got a hammer?
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back to the show. You have Waldorf here, Waldorf Nation. All right, so I was just listening to for any updates on the verdict. So far, I haven't seen it. But boy, yeah. Jessica Levinson is, by the way, who you heard CBS talking about the video here. That was the most powerful piece of evidence, of course, because this is what happened, and it's really, it's really hard to dispute that it was murder looking at that video. So we're gonna see what happens. Oof. We're on pins and needles, y'all. Pins and needles. Oof. All right. Anyway, before I dive back into the story, so I want to thank a few of you here. Northern Ice Dragon, thank you for the 3 months with Prime. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much for that. Helps us out greatly. Of course, we've got some super chats here as well. I work in healthcare. Let me tell you, the new antivirals and monoclonal antibody treatments are working miracles on COVID infection patients. Thank goodness for science. Can't say that about religion at this point. So yes, absolutely. Thanks science. Thanks science for that. Good stuff here, and I'm going to read your name out there, and thank you for that. But it always seems to cut off people's names at the very top. YouTube, get on that. Let's see. Elwell, thank you for that, Elwell. Much, much appreciated. Let's see. We've got more. Dr. Zippy McScoot says, in my 14 years in the Army, I was vaccinated 30 times from anthrax to Ebola, and I lived. Yeah, it's weird how that works out. Maybe Ted would understand that if he had not been such a coward to shit his pants literally for a month straight in order to get out of going to Vietnam. To say. Hey, Gabby Mathis, happy 420 to you. Zachary Fluke, thank you. I appreciate being able to give you the laugh. Happy 422 Doogie for the ages. Thank you so much for the $5. The congressman from California did nothing wrong, and none of her actions or words had impact on this case. I agree. Absolutely. Yes, and as a lot of you pointed out, they did use the hell out of this angry black woman trope. Because, of course. And Shane McAndrew says, can't wait for Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore to keep on supporting the bow-tied fascists over the comments. Yeah, look, I could definitely see how people whose main claim is we're anti-establishment. So we hate the establishment in all shapes or forms. Well, look who's considered to be part of the establishment, Maxine Waters. As I said before, she's not like super progressive. She's not in favor of Medicare for all or anything like that, as far as I can tell, but she's really, really fantastic on the issues of racial justice. And so they're going to hone. I think there are people that are going to hone on people who, don't support Medicare for all or didn't support the postal vote. And they're going to say things like, no, I side with Tucker Carlson because she's obviously dangerous and anti-establishment and she's establishment. And so, that's what I see coming from that. There are people who just, again, look at things very, very simply. Are you establishment or are you anti-establishment? and they make their decisions. And you're absolutely right, though. Medicare for all is a racial justice issue. It's true. And there are people that do, they minimize issues of class and separate issues of race when really all these issues are intersectional. All these things kind of tie into each other. Yes, Medicare for all is racial justice. College for all is racial justice, because you have a lot of people who are, black, who, try to better themselves going through college and have so much debt. And so there's so much intersectionalities in these issues. And you have people that are reductionist on that. And so, and then of course you have the establishment versus anti-establishment. You've got the imperialism versus non-imperialism, and all these different factions that are pretty much breaking the left apart. And it's really kind of amazing how Bernie Sanders was the person that that got them together in the first place. Without that kind of leadership, we have seen a big factionalization, and I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of a unified left. And so that unified left, by the way, does not include allying with people like Tucker Carlson. So there's that. Hey, thank you, Mod. Is it Made or just Mod? I apologize for being terrible with names. But thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate you enjoying the new setup. I like that. All right, let's move on. Let's get to anti-free speech. Okay. It appears that Florida Republicans and Governor Ron DeSantis are not friends of free speech. In fact, they just recently passed the most draconian anti-free speech bill in the country. So now, this is called the Combating Public Disorder Bill, or HB1, and it's the latest attempt in Florida to crack down on the First Amendment activity in the wake of the nationwide protest movement that was triggered by the death of George Floyd. In fact, today, we're having the verdict that is about to be announced, which could either lead to more protest or not. And so I can't help feel that this is pretty timely. Now, Florida's bill, as with those introduced in the 45 states this year, have been widely criticized by civil liberties groups who fear that the law will be used to disproportionately criminalize Black-led protests against police brutality, which I guess is kind of the point. You didn't know Republicans don't actually like free speech? That they're really, really selective on who they believe should get free speech? Weird. Surprise. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I guess some people are. Now, during the press conference, he called this the, quote, strongest anti-rioting pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. There's nothing even close. So they're, of course, cloaking this in, we're just against riots. Well, what's a riot? Well, in this bill, apparently a gathering of over 3 people. It's so ridiculous. Now, I'm actually kind of shocked, by the way, that he could go and make an announcement with the boot all the way down his throat. It's really interesting. So let me give you some details about this, okay? Now, the bill would actually criminalize protest in several different ways. One of them would actually prevent local governments from taking steps to defund the police by making them liable for damage that occurs during protest, which does happen. It could happen from protesters. It could happen from outside agitators that could come in and smash windows. And so that could be an issue. Obviously, in the state of Florida, DeSantis said, we're not going to do that under my leadership, but if the local government were to do that, that would be catastrophic and have terrible consequences for their citizens. And so this bill actually prevents local governments from defunding law enforcement. So again, what happened to local control? What happened to small government? Weird. Interesting. He added that local officials could also be held liable if damage occurred after they gave stand-down orders to police. He said that that is a dereliction of duty. So the result of this, in my opinion, is going to encourage more violence. And a lot of BLM protests, the people who started the violence were actually the police. I know, right? They would advance on protesters' positions, prompting a response. What this bill now does is it encourages cops to continue escalating the situation and not letting the protest die down. That's actually going to do more to inflame tension between these people, which of course guarantees that police will be even more aggressive in clamping down, which will cause, of course, more anti-police sentiment. So really, what you're doing is you're hurting your own cause. But it gets worse. Florida's new law also creates civil immunity for people who drive into crowds of protesters, meaning that the people who drive into crowds of protesters would not be sued for damages if they are hurt or killed, as long as the driver claims self-defense. They could still face criminal charges. However, they would have civil immunity. Great. So you could theoretically drive into a group of protesters and say, I was defending myself, and get civil immunity if the people that you drove over died or got hurt. Vice also explains that this comes at an interesting time, after an alarming surge of vehicle ramming attacks against protesters across the country. Between May and October of 2020, there were over 100 incidents of drivers going into crowds of protesters, about half of which were confirmed to be intentional, not accidental, according to research by Ari Weil, a terrorism researcher at the University of Chicago's Chicago Project on Security and Threats. So there you go. Now, in a separate incident in Tallahassee, a man accelerated his pickup truck into a group of protesters. And by the way, at least 8 of those ramming attacks took place in Florida. For example, a man drove his car into a small group of protesters near downtown Gainesville and then pointed a gun at them last May. So, great. We got more of that coming if you're in Florida. I guess that means you shouldn't protest at all. Well, yeah, that's kind of their point. That's they don't want you to protest. Now, and if that's not clear enough, it gets worse. The bill also makes mob intimidation defined as 2 or more people trying to compel someone to assume, abandon, or maintain a particular viewpoint against his or her will a misdemeanor. It is a crime to gather in groups of more than 3 people to make a point. Try to get people to change their minds. So literally you're arresting people for disagreeing on political grounds and trying to convince other people to change their views. Of course. And by the way, if you're arrested as a result of these draconian measures, you are also not able to be bailed out of jail until your first court appearance. So this is incredibly draconian. The message is clear. We do not want protests. Sit down, shut up, stay home, follow the police. And by the way, we're the party of freedom. Joke. What a joke. Absolute joke. The bill, according to Gail Johnson, who is a Gainesville commissioner, so one of the people that are fighting back. So you've got civil liberties groups and Democrats that are pushing back against this, saying, quote, "This bill is a direct effort to silence the movement for Black lives and the uprisings last summer that follows the police killing of George Floyd. It keeps no one safe and undercuts our liberty." Right? I remember Jim Jordan ranting about how the mask mandates and the lockdown, wow, our liberty, when are we going to get our liberty back? Well, Black people never had their liberty. When are they ever going to get their liberty from the police, from police killings? That's a good question. But here's the thing. They don't want to fix this system. The actual causes of the protests and sometimes riots is because they don't see anything wrong with police killing Black people and beating up old ladies. It's what they do. And so for them, for Republicans, for Ron DeSantis, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And worse, let's target the people who want to fix it with even more of a police presence to crack down on them. Republicans talk a great game about liberty and free speech, but in reality, they're using the cover of trying to stop riots in order to erode free speech, as long as it's speech that they don't like. It is absolutely disgusting, and Florida is not alone in trying to criminalize protests. In fact, in Minnesota, a Republican lawmaker has introduced a bill that would withhold student financial aid from anyone who is convicted of a protest-related crime. The bill also proposes withholding other types of state-funded aid, food stamps, rent assistance, and unemployment. We all know, of course, who that targets the most. Okay? No. If you want to protest, you need to be rich, and you need to be right-wing, and you need to be carrying guns and complaining about big government and masks. If you're that kind of protester, we love you. We're going to help you out. We're going to be on your side as police officers because you're our kind of protester. But if you were protesting the deaths of black people at the hands of police, well, we're not interested in that kind of protest, and we will do everything we can to shut you down. This is the Republican Party. This is what they do and what they stand for. All right. Still waiting on that verdict. And yet, it has not been announced. All right. One more story. A little bit later, but we'll do it. All right. A father in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, was outraged after he said the staff at his biracial daughter's school cut her hair without permission. So now she's only 7 years old. Her name is Journey, and the school cut her hair without permission and now refuses to answer why. Interesting. So now the father, Jimmy Hoffmeyer, said the incident happened just before spring break. When he had talked to someone about the school, about what happened, it actually left him more confused because they weren't giving him a straight answer. Hoffmeyer said that his daughter ended up getting about 3 different haircuts that week. One was just, you know how students are, you know how kids are, messing around. Somebody cut a piece off her hair. So now her hair was kind of uneven. So her father afterwards decided to take her to get it professionally done, evened out, and so that it looks better. And then following that, the day after, she comes home with a lot less hair from school. And her dad's like, what the hell's going on? What's going on? So now, if it's one thing I've learned, and I'm not a parent, but generally you don't mess with other people's hair. Kids don't mess with their hair. Again, don't mess with anybody's hair. Okay. What was anybody thinking? What was the teacher thinking? What's going on here? So now, here's what Hoffmeyer said. Quote, our kind of hair, you can't just wet it down and cut it because that's when I feel like they should have, even if they were trying to do it in the kindest of their heart, once they seen the outcome, they should have been like, yeah, we messed up. So she's got black hair, okay, as a biracial child. And so there has been a lot of racism. There's been a lot of attacks on people with that kind of hair. And it really is, it really is ridiculous that this happened or that anybody, messes with other people's hair, especially black hair, in school without permission. There's something going on here, okay? So now, how could they realize that this is not disastrous? I have no idea. Now, after the teacher cut her hair, the little girl, Journey, was so embarrassed because she had to go back to class with that hair, okay? So now, again, she had it styled before she went back because a fellow student cut some of it off and then had it fixed. And then apparently that wasn't good enough. Here comes the teacher, and they just, they completely ruined it. So now he contacted the school after this happened, and of course it was understandably pissed, and got the runaround. No answers. No answers to this. Hoffmeyer did say that he received an apology. However, the school will not let him see the video of what happened, either on the bus, whether or not she was bullied on the bus as a result of her hair, or, in school. So now I lived in Mount Pleasant, a couple of years ago. I had been there. Yes, it's fairly white, but you have a lot of minorities in that area as well. And so it is interesting to see something like this happen. Fairly disastrous, because you would think that it's a big college town that's a little bit more progressive, that you wouldn't have teachers going up and cutting people's hair. Nonetheless, here's what Hoffmeyer said. I would like them to own up to their responsibilities. Like, we've been asking as a public apology for, the most part, to let Journey know that they acknowledged that it was wrong, that it should have never been done, and that she should have never been through something like this. Because, again, it is emotionally damaging. I know that as, if I were her dad, or if this happened, if I had kids, if this had happened to one of mine, I would be pretty mad. I'd be pretty angry. I think anybody who has kids would be angry too. Like, what gives you the right to do that? And maybe a couple of things. Maybe she got gum stuck in her hair. Maybe it got stuck in something. I mean, kids, right? Use your imagination. But if that had happened, then why didn't they say something to the father? Oh, no, she had gum in her hair, so that's why we had to take care of it. Or she got her hair stuck in something. There's no choice for us to, save her from more pain to cut her hair. And we're really, really sorry about that. But this is exactly what happened. The fact that they didn't show the video for this is really kind of disturbing. It makes me think that there's something more going on here, that they're trying to protect the teacher from something. Again, she's biracial. She has black hair. There's been a lot of stories of schools and school officials discriminating against black hair. And so, that's what I think it could be. It's a big enough issue that happens that there are actually bills in the work here in Michigan to address the issue. One is the Crown Act, which would modify Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to make it illegal to discriminate based on hair texture and protective hairstyles like braids, locks, and twists. So it is amazing, though, that it's 2021 and that people with, black people with hair are being discriminated against for their hair. People are racist against, I was going to say they're racist against hairstyles, but really they're racist against black people for having hair and wearing hair in the way that they want to, in their natural way. I guess it is a way of like erasing their culture. And it's just really, really messed up. Now, as far as Journey is concerned, she is going to a new school. She got out of that school. Her father pulled her, put her into a new school, and yet her father is still trying to get answers of what exactly happened. I hope he does get answers. I hope this does lead to a change in laws and more acceptability for black natural hair. There's absolutely no reason why anyone should discriminate or be able to discriminate against people for wearing their natural hair. It's insane. And I hope her father gets the answers that he's looking for. All right. Sadly, everyone knows the power hair has to an individual, men, women, and boys and girls. It's a tactic to create someone. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I haven't had hair for a while. So, nonetheless, like, this is a disastrous story. It's pretty ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And he's right to be he's justified being angry. A friend of mine was banned from extracurricular activities in high school for having long hair. Ridiculous. All right. We are still waiting on the verdicts, apparently. So I will not be able to read this on air. That sucks. That's okay though. Because I'm gonna have to get to editing here soon, but still, I did want to show red alert. There we go. Red alert. Prepare for the verdict. Can I do a special reaction video? I think about it. Or I might just save it tomorrow and do that. Was a bit of a hairy story. It's not disco, it's red alert. Hold on.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Oh, shit. I think it's happening. Oh, shit. It's happening, folks. It's happening. Let's keep that going.
All right, for the jury.
Hold on. Let me get this here.
All right, please be seated. Members of the jury, I understand you have a verdict.
Here we go.
Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court File Number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19.
Murder 2, guilty.
Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
Oh!
This verdict agreed to this 20th day of
shit.
April 2021.
That's 2 over
at
2.
1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021.
Oh, shit, that's 3 for
3. 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019.
Whoa!
Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 79, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 85, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes.
So
Members
say
of the
we
jury,
all.
I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back into your usual room, and I will join you in a few minutes to answer questions and to advise.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Derek Chauvin. Down goes Derek Chauvin. There's 3 guilty verdicts. Holy shit. Folks, we have accountability. We have, it appears that we have some accountability here. At least, of course, until they try to appeal this. But wow, they got him. They got him. Holy. All right. I guess we can get off the red alert here. Let's see. Let's go back to yellow alert here. Because there is going to be some massive right-wing reaction to this. They will not be happy about this. But as far as people who are looking for, again, some measure of police accountability, again, the video spoke for itself. You watch the video, 9 minutes on Floyd's neck. There was absolutely no reason for this to happen. George Floyd should not be dead here, and I'm so glad that the jury was able to see this for what it is and to make, I think, the right decision. Appealing 3 counts is impossible. They might go for the. My guess is they might go for probably the most, the most damaging count, which would be the murder too, the 2nd-degree murder. But look at that. It's not justice, but it is accountability, and I'm glad that we still live in a country where police can be held accountable for what they've done. So, all right, we will go back to now off of yellow alert here. Let's go back to, I think, normal bridge lights. I love these things. I'm having way too much fun with my lights. This is a good day. With that, I will leave you all. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. I do appreciate all the wonderful things that you have said, as well as hanging around with me to watch this. You were all wonderful and amazing. In fact, let me read some of your... They immediately handcuffed Chauvin in his suit, revoked his bail, sent him to prison. Yes, that's where he belongs. A step closer to justice, at the very least. Agreed. It's a good day. Guilty verdict. 420 got vaxxed. It is. This is only one case. There's still more police officers like him that are still doing things like this. Yes, and until there's the removal of qualified immunity, we will still probably continue to see things like this. But nonetheless, we got to learn to take the W on this one. This is the win. This is a win, and so let's enjoy it, and remember George Floyd, and those, of course, who have, that will be impacted by this incredibly important decision, and what will come from it. Hopefully, there will be reform. Hopefully, there will be something that will help prevent future George Floyds. All right. Love you all. Thank you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll have right-wing reactions tomorrow. Love you all. See you tomorrow.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Who's got a hammer? There's insanity in the control room.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.